Darkness surrounded the drifting ship. It had no name, no signal, no crew. Just cold metal and silence. It floated far from any known star system, lost in the black sea of space. Its surface was covered in burn marks and scars from weapons unknown. The hull looked almost torn apart by claws, or maybe something worse. Earth's Deep Space Patrol picked it up on long-range scanners. At first, no one paid attention. Space junk, they thought. Another broken relic from one of the endless alien wars. But one man, Captain Elias Grant, thought differently. Something about the ship didn't feel right. It wasn't just broken. It looked like it had been trying to escape something, and it had died in silence. Elias stood at the edge of the hangar bay, staring at the wreck as it was pulled aboard. He wasn't alone. Dr. Mara Keller, Earth's top xenohistorian, watched with him. She had studied hundreds of alien ships before, but this one made her uneasy. The shape, the design. She had seen it once in a restricted council archive. She wasn't supposed to remember it, but she did. "Do you feel that?" she asked quietly. Elias nodded. "It feels wrong, like the ship is trying to whisper something." When they entered the ship, the smell hit them first. Old metal, oil, and something else. Decay. The corridors were dark, filled with floating dust. No signs of life, just shadows. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. The walls had been carved with strange markings, alien symbols scratched in panic over and over again. The same few symbols repeated like a prayer or a warning. Then they found it. In the main control room, covered in dried blood and broken wires, was a small black cube. It pulsed faintly, still alive. A data core. Ancient, but still active. Mara reached for it with shaking hands. "Do you know what this is?" Elias asked. She nodded slowly. "It's a Death World beacon." He frowned. "That's impossible. The Galactic Council outlawed Death World tech centuries ago." Mara looked at him. "Exactly. They took the cube back to their lab on Mars Orbital Station. It took days to unlock it. The encryption was beyond anything they had ever seen. Layers of alien code, hidden languages, and something else. Something almost human. As if someone wanted them to find it, but only if they were smart enough to understand." Finally, the cube opened. What it showed was terrifying. A map of the galaxy appeared. Hundreds of planets lit up in red, all marked as Class 7 Death Worlds. Every single one marked as uninhabitable by the Council. But the footage told a different story. Mara and Elias watched in silence. The cube played videos from different Death Worlds. Jungles, filled with massive beasts, deserts with lightning storms that danced like fire, oceans with creatures that could crush ships with a single touch. But the most shocking part was not the danger. It was the people. Each Death World had its own intelligent species, strong, fast, and smart, survivors, builders. Some had advanced cities hidden underground. Others had starships buried in caves. These were civilizations, entire races, alive, real, and completely erased from history. "Why would the Council lie?" Elias whispered. Mara stared at the screen. Her face was pale. "Because they were afraid." The cube's final message was a recording. A desperate voice spoke in a strange mix of alien languages and old Earth dialects. "If you are hearing this, you must be from a free world. The Council destroyed our planets. They called us beasts, monsters. They feared our strength. They hid our history. We are the Death Worlders. We remember everything." The voice paused. "Find the others. Show them the truth. And never trust the Council." The recording ended. Silence returned. Elias leaned back. "If this is real, then the Galactic Council is guilty of genocide." Mara nodded. "And if we tell anyone, they'll come for us." "What do we do?" he asked. She looked at the map. "We find one of the Death Worlds. We go there. We prove it." He didn't speak for a moment. Then he smiled. "Then let's Pack. Their ship, Vigilant Star, was small but fast. They left the station without telling command. The coordinates led them to a system with a dying sun and a single red planet. Acreon. Council records said the planet had no atmosphere, no life, no reason to visit. But the moment they entered orbit, they saw the lie. Storms moved across the planet's surface, bright red and violent. The scanners picked up energy sources underground. Buildings, structures, life. Not much, but something. As they landed, the ship shook. Winds tore across the desert, thick with red dust. Acreon was alive, and it was angry. They stepped out in protective suits, moving toward the nearest signal. It led them to a cave hidden by falling rock. Inside, the air changed, warmer, almost breathable, and then they saw it. A city, buried beneath the ground. Massive towers made of black stone and steel, symbols carved into every wall. Technology far beyond anything they had ever seen. They walked in silence, cameras recording everything. Every step felt heavier, as if the planet was watching them. In the center of the ruins, they found a strange throne, cracked in half. Bones rested on it, not human, not alien, something else, something large, something strong. Beside it, a second beacon. Elias reached for it, but a sound stopped him. Breathing. Something moved in the shadows. A figure stepped into the light. Thin, tall, with pale blue skin and deep black eyes. His body was covered in scars. He held no weapon, just a small data pad. His voice was soft but clear. "You should not be here." Mara raised her hands. "We're not with the Council. We found your message." The figure stared. "Then you are already in danger." "Who are you?" Elias asked. "I was a scientist," he said. "Before they came. Before the Council bombed our cities and poisoned our skies. I survived. Barely." "Why?" Mara asked. "Why did they do it?" "Because we would not kneel," the figure said. "Because we were stronger than they were. So they called us monsters, and they burned our history." He handed Mara his datapad. "Everything is here. What they did to us, what they will do to you." Mara looked at the screen. Her eyes widened. This would destroy the Council." The figure nodded. "That is why you must leave now, before they find you." Too late. The ground shook. A voice came through. The sky, cold and metallic. "Unregistered vessel. You are in violation of Galactic Code 47A. Power down and surrender. Council drones." Elias looked at Mara. "They found us." The alien shook his head. "You cannot run, but you can show the truth." Mara nodded slowly. "Then we fight." Elias reached for his weapon. "They're not getting this data." Outside, the drones began to land. Inside, 2 humans and 1 forgotten survivor prepared for the battle, and for the galaxy to hear the truth. The ship was quiet as it landed on the red sands. The engines cooled with a low hum. Dust blew across the landscape in slow waves, whispering against the hull. Everything around them felt heavy. The sky above was dark red, and the ground below cracked with heat. The planet looked dead, but they both knew it wasn't. Elias stepped down first, boots sinking slightly into the soft dust. Mara followed, holding the data pad tightly in her hand. The coordinates from the alien survivor had led them to this part of the death world, an old settlement buried beneath sand and time. The silence was not peaceful. It was waiting. They moved carefully, guided by faint signals. Every few steps, their scanners blinked. Strange energy readings, brief flashes of movement in the distance. But nothing came close. They reached the entrance to the underground ruins just before sunset. The sky had begun to shift from red to deep purple, and the wind picked up, stronger, colder. The opening was half covered by broken metal, a long-forgotten gate twisted by heat and pressure. Elias cleared the path and they stepped inside. The air changed at once. It was warmer underground, more still. The dust didn't follow them here. Walls stretched out in wide patterns covered in markings they couldn't fully read. The architecture felt sharp and strong, built for survival, not beauty. But there was something powerful about it, something that made Mara pause. This wasn't just a shelter, she said. This was a city. Elias looked around. Then where are the people? They walked deeper. Signs of life became more visible. Broken tools, shattered lights, old dried food packets with markings from a language Mara didn't recognize. In one corner, a wall was covered in drawings, not words, pictures. One showed tall, strong figures standing under a bright sky. Another showed ships flying across space. The next showed those same ships falling in fire. The final one showed black clouds falling from above. A story without words. Mara took a slow breath. They lived. They built. And then they were erased. Their exploration led them to a large chamber. In the center stood a strange device. Circular, glowing faintly, even after all this time. Around it were chairs, monitors, and faded control panels. The entire room felt like a command center. Elias touched the screen. It flickered to life. More images appeared. Maps, data logs, security footage. One video played. A council ambassador, speaking with Deathworld leaders. The conversation had no sound, but their body language was clear. The Deathworlders stood firm. The ambassador grew tense. Then the recording cut out. Another clip loaded. This one showed the city from above. Ships filled the sky. Not Deathworld ships. Council ones. The screen turned white. A final file opened by itself. It was a message. Not from the past, but recent. If you're reading this, then you found the truth. We could not stop them, but maybe you can tell others. The truth was never ours to keep. The truth belongs to all. The message ended. A soft hum echoed in the room. A panel opened on the wall. Inside was a small silver device glowing gently. Mara reached for it. This is what they tried to hide. Elias nodded. We can't let them take it again. Suddenly a sound came from the entrance. Distant. Footsteps. Not one, but many. They turned off their lights and listened. The sounds grew louder, steady and precise. Council agents. The drones were here. They had followed the ship's signal. They had come to take back the truth. Mara and Elias moved quickly, taking the device and data pad. They ducked into a lower tunnel, moving through narrow paths, old maintenance corridors. The sounds followed them, closing in. They found a side room, small, dark, filled with equipment. Elias sealed the door. The walls were thick. The sounds faded slightly. Mara looked at him. They're not just here to stop us. They're here to erase everything, again. We can't let that happen. She opened the device, linking it to her pad. I'm sending a signal. Just one message to anyone listening. Elias watched her fingers move. Do you think anyone will believe us? I don't know, but if even one does, it's enough. Outside, metal footsteps stopped near the room. The drones were searching, the message uploaded. A green light flashed, and somewhere, far from this red world, another signal blinked in return. The stars above the council world burned steady and bright, as if nothing had changed. Tall towers reached into the sky like needles of glass and steel, untouched by time or war. The city was perfect, clean, controlled, quiet. But inside the high chambers of the Galactic Council, there was no peace. 12 council members sat around a circular table, their faces hidden in shadow. Screens floated in the air, each showing the same thing, a brief message sent from the edge of the galaxy, carrying images of a place long thought forgotten. A death world, a signal, proof. The room was silent. Then one of them spoke. It was supposed to be gone. Acreon was sealed, erased. Another leaned forward, and yet the message escaped. Someone activated a relic. The humans. The word echoed through the chamber. No one argued. No one questioned. They found the ruins, They found the truth. Eyes turned toward the central figure, a tall being with silver markings on his skin, the High Speaker. He nodded once. Then, they must be stopped before others listen. Far away, the humans had no idea the council was already watching. Inside the hidden room on Acreon, Mara sat on the floor, staring at the blinking light on her pad. Someone had received their message. Just one reply, but it was real. A signal from an unknown location. Coordinates. No name, no message. Just a place. Elias stood at the door, listening. The sounds outside had faded, but they both knew it wasn't over. The council's reach was long. This was just the beginning. We can't stay here, he said. Mara looked up. We don't even know who sent that signal. It could be a trap. He gave a half smile. Or it could be someone like us. They left through a maintenance shaft that led to the surface. The wind was calmer now and the sky had returned to its quiet red. They walked fast, crossing the dunes to where their ship waited under a thin shield. But they weren't alone. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, tall, cloaked in dark cloth, eyes glowing faintly. It didn't raise a weapon. It simply stood in their path. I heard your message, it said in a soft voice. So did many others. Elias moved slightly in front of Mara. Who are you? The figure pulled back its hood, revealing smooth, gray skin, lined with thin markings like veins of silver. I am one of the few who still remember, it said. My home was lost long before Acreon, another death world. Another lie. Mara stared. You survived? The figure nodded. I watched them take our sky. I watched them rewrite our name. I was young then. But I remember. Elias stepped forward. Why help us? Because you told the truth and because others are listening now. The council can only silence so many. But if enough speak, the silence breaks. The stranger handed them a crystal shard shaped like a star. This will lead you to the others. Survivors. Hidden places. Voices that still speak. Then, without another word, the figure walked into the red mist and disappeared. Back aboard the Vigilant Star, Mara sat with the crystal in her hand. It glowed softly, showing a star map with 3 more hidden locations. 3 more death worlds the council claimed were empty. She looked at Elias. If we go, we'll be hunted. He nodded. But if we don't, everything we've done means nothing. She smiled faintly. Then let's go further. As their ship rose from the planet's surface, the ground below faded into dust and history once more. But across the galaxy, whispers had begun, and the truth was no longer alone. The space between stars was calm, but the silence carried weight now. The kind of silence that made even the quiet hum of the ship feel louder. Elias stared out the window, eyes fixed on the shifting starlight. Somewhere ahead was their next destination. Another world wiped clean from memory. Another truth buried under years of lies. Mara sat at the console beside him, tracing the path on the star map the crystal had revealed. 3 destinations had appeared. They had chosen the closest. A planet once called Veltrax. According to the Council's official records, Veltrax had never supported life. A mineral-rich rock with no value beyond raw material. No atmosphere. No history, just another stone in space. But the data from the shard said otherwise. As they approached the system, something unusual happened. The ship's sensors began to flicker. Light bent strangely outside the windows. Communications fell silent. Even time seemed slower. Are we moving through some kind of field? Elias asked, checking the controls. Mara adjusted the settings, scanning deeper. It's a cloak, an artificial veil wrapped around the planet. Someone didn't just hide this place, they buried it in light itself. As they dropped out of orbit, Veltrax came into view. It was nothing like the records claimed. Green clouds swirled above massive stone towers, floating in the sky like islands. Rivers of light ran across the surface like veins. Giant trees rose from canyons that glowed from within. It was not dead. It was beautiful and alive. The ship landed softly on a plateau near one of the larger towers. No immediate signs of a movement, but the scanners picked up faint life readings, distant, scattered, and strange. Something about the energy here was different, not just biological, almost intentional. As they stepped out, the air welcomed them, warm, rich, and filled with scents that felt oddly familiar. Not just natural, cultivated. This place isn't just alive, Mara said. It was protected. They followed a narrow path toward the tower. Symbols lined the walls, glowing softly as they passed, reacting to their presence. It felt like the planet itself was watching, measuring, judging. At the top of the path, a circular gate stood half open. Through it, a single figure waited. She was tall, elegant, with markings across her skin that shifted like liquid metal. Her eyes held no fear, only curiosity. "You are not of this world," she said gently. Mara stepped forward. "We found the message, the warning." The woman nodded slowly. "Then you carry weight far greater than you understand." Elias looked around. "Is this your world?" It was. It still is. For those who remember, for those who were never truly erased. They followed her into the heart of the tower. Inside was a sanctuary, part temple, part archive. Floating lights moved through the air like fireflies. In the center stood a massive sphere, filled with shifting images. We're scientists," the woman explained. "Explorers. We touched the edge of the universe, and for that the Council called us dangerous." Mara watched the images inside the sphere, entire civilizations, data logs, old star charts, knowledge long believed lost. "Why not fight back?" Elias asked. "We did, but not with weapons. We hid what mattered most. Our memory, our story, waiting for someone to find it." She walked to a small panel and placed her hand on it. The sphere changed. It now showed other places, other death worlds still hidden, some dark, some glowing bright with life. "You are not alone anymore," she said softly. "Others will rise now that truth walks freely again." Mara took a deep breath. "The Council won't stop, they're already hunting us." The woman looked into the sphere, where stars pulsed like heartbeats. "Then let the stars hear your voice before they try to silence it." Outside, the clouds parted just enough to let the first sunlight through, and far across the galaxy, another signal blinked. Faint, but growing stronger. The truth, once buried, had begun to travel. The stars shimmered quietly as the vigilant star drifted beyond the reach of Veltrax's protective field. Behind them, the living planet slowly disappeared into the black canvas of space, once again hidden beneath its ancient veil. But inside the ship, the truth they carried was anything but silent. Mara sat in deep focus, reviewing the star maps and files given to them by the Guardian of Veltrax. These weren't just records. They were pieces of a puzzle, connections between forgotten worlds, secret outposts, and names never spoken aloud in Council territory. One name kept appearing: Solarius. Unlike Veltrax, there were no known maps, no coordinates, not even a rumor in the outer colonies. And yet across several independent sources that word returned, always with the same phrase beneath it: the Archive of Light. Elias leaned on the edge of the console, watching the data flicker. "You think it's another death world?" he asked. Mara nodded slowly. "No, I think it's more than that. I think it's where everything began." They followed the signal patterns for days, passing dead systems and abandoned beacons. Space seemed emptier here, not physically, but emotionally, as if something had pulled the life away long ago. Finally, the signal changed. A burst of light, impossible to track with normal sensors, surged across their path. For a brief moment, time itself seemed to slow. Stars stretched into lines. The ship's controls froze. Then, as suddenly as it came, the distortion ended, and a new star appeared ahead. Solarius. It didn't look like a planet. It looked like a starship, one the size of a moon, floating motionless, surrounded by a soft ring of dust and glowing crystals. Its surface shimmered with thousands of lights, none blinking in rhythm, each pulsing at its own frequency. Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. It's not a world. It's a memory. As they approached, the ship recognized them, without input or command. The vigilant star slowed and aligned itself with a glowing entrance on the side of the station. A narrow tunnel opened, leading into a chamber lit by soft blue lights and curved walls. They stepped out slowly. The air was still but charged, as if the station was breathing. A voice echoed around them. Calm, ancient. Welcome. Access granted. You are the first in 400 years. Elias looked at Mara. Did it recognize us? The voice returned. Not who you are, but what you carry. The center of the chamber rose. A platform lifted from the floor, revealing a crystal dome filled with swirling light and holographic symbols. Around the dome, thousands of data threads floated, some broken, others still alive. This is the archive, the voice said. A sanctuary of what once was, of what was taken. Mara reached out. The light reacted instantly. Images flooded. Around her, galaxies spinning, names of species long gone, technologies never shared. She saw a council, but not the one she knew. A younger one, brighter, before it turned to silence and control. Then something changed. One of the threads shifted, projecting an image of a council meeting, the same chamber from the past, but this time with sound. A voice spoke. If we do not erase them now, their truth will reach the stars. It will unravel the peace we have built. Another replied, peace built on forgetting is not peace. It is delay. Mara stepped back, stunned. They knew. They all knew. Elias narrowed his eyes. Then why bury it? The voice answered, no longer neutral. Because truth invites choice, and they feared what people might choose if they knew. Suddenly the lights dimmed. A new presence touched the station. Distant, cold. The council had found them. A message arrived on their console, a warning to leave. Immediate departure demanded. Silence or consequences. Mara didn't flinch. She uploaded one file, just one, but from the archive. A single story about a people who built light in the darkness and were never thanked for it. She pressed transmit. Far beyond Solarius, on colony worlds, on mining ships, on research stations, a quiet alert chimed. One more truth had awakened. The message spread faster than light could carry it. Across distant colonies, hidden stations, trade routes, and forgotten corners of the galaxy, the file from Solarius appeared. A brief pulse of knowledge wrapped in simplicity. It didn't demand belief, it didn't ask for rebellion. It only told a story of a people who brought light to darkness and were erased for it. But the galaxy was changing, and people were listening. Inside the vigilant star, the silence that followed the broadcast wasn't emptiness. It was anticipation. Mara sat near the ship's observation deck, eyes locked on the shifting colors of hyperspace outside. She could feel it, the weight of it. The story they shared had left its mark. Elias entered quietly, holding a small data slate. His face was serious, but there was something behind his eyes, a question unspoken. You should see this, he said, handing the slate to Mara. She tapped the screen. Dozens of encrypted signals filled the log, short scattered transmissions coming from all over the galaxy. Most were fragments, some were full sentences, a few were just coordinates. But every one of them had the same code prefix. Echo. It's spreading, Elias said. Others are responding. Mara's fingers hovered above the screen. We started something we can't stop now. Elias nodded slowly. And the council knows it. As if summoned by his words, a new signal interrupted the data flow. But this one wasn't a response. It was a warning, a sector-wide alert. From the Council, a new law banning unsanctioned knowledge transmissions. All vessels broadcasting unverified data would be detained. All echo signals would be marked as interference threats. Mara leaned back in her seat, eyes narrowing. They're scared. Elias sat beside her. They built their rule on silence. Now silence is slipping. There was a long pause between them, the kind of quiet that speaks without words. We have one last destination, Mara finally said. The place the others couldn't find. The place the Council erased from even the old star charts. She opened a private file she hadn't shared until now, a set of coordinates given to her by the Guardian on Veltrax, buried beneath layers. A forgotten code. No name, no label, just empty space. But it wasn't empty. As they dropped from hyperspace into the cold, black stretch beyond the known border, they saw it. A station, ancient and massive, floating above a dark planet with no light, no heat, no signature. The structure was broken in places but still alive. Its surface was lined with thousands of faded markings, old languages layered over one another. It had no lights, no signals, and yet, something about it pulled at them. This isn't a death world, Elias whispered. This is a grave. The ship docked slowly, carefully. The station didn't respond. It let them in. Inside, they walked through halls lined with shadows and dust. It was quiet, but not abandoned. The walls hummed faintly, like an old song, playing from memory. In the heart of the station, they found a room unlike any they'd seen, a chamber without walls, where gravity shifted and sound echoed softly. In the center, a sphere floated, dim but warm. It spoke, but not in words. It showed feeling, sorrow, memory, hope. And then it revealed something more. A record. Not a story, but a choice. The final message of a people who had seen the future and decided to hide themselves. Not in fear, but in trust. Trust that someone one day would carry their truth forward. Mara placed her hand near the sphere. It responded with light. Not blinding. Just enough. We'll carry it, she whispered. All of it. Elias stepped forward, placing his hand beside hers. The sphere pulsed once, then dissolved, becoming light, folding into their ship, their systems, their story. As they left the station, the darkness around the planet shifted. Stars returned. The void no longer swallowed them. And somewhere far, across the galaxy, voices began to rise, quietly at first, then stronger, not shouting, just telling stories, one by one,